Welcome to that wonderful time. Every Tuesday we get a chance to have Talking Tech Tips with Terry, Tuesday at 2 o'clock Eastern Time. Hi, I'm Terry Brock and I'm your guide here at Dental Nachos as we talk about how you in the dentisting community can take advantage of some of the technology that's out there, some of the marketing ideas and what's available for you. And today I am particularly excited. This is a very special day for a couple of reasons. Number one, I'm celebrating the first trip outside the United States. I'm not in my normal environment. Those of you that have regularly seen this notice the background's a little different. That's because I'm in the hotel room right now. And hey, I'm going to show you, I'm picking up my Brio here, showing you off the balcony. This is what it looks like, or at least you see in the balcony here in the hotel. You got that. It's kind of fuzzy, I know, over on the side there, out there, but that over there is the Caribbean Sea. Or the Caribbean Sea. They've got both of them here, the Caribbean and the Caribbean. They got them both. And we're here in a wonderful town called Playa del Carmen. It's just a little outside of Cancun, and we're here for a conference. But I thought we're going to have fun with Dental Nachos and Talking Tech with Terry. We're going to make sure we cover something extra special. Now, this one is an event that we planned last week, but hey, life happens and Mother Nature gets in there, and the person we were going to have couldn't get on, even though they got blazing fast internet. When you got major storms coming through, they can sometimes put you out of business. Well, we're determined and we're going to make it, because joining us today, we've got someone who is pretty special. He is William Glass, and he's joining us right now from his offices up there in Chattanooga. William Glass, it is an honor to have you here with us, sir.
Thank you very much for having me, Terry. It's a pleasure to be here.
It is really good because we got a lot of things going on today. And I know in today's world, we're seeing a lot changing with marketing. And the things that are happening with marketing are pretty amazing as we see the kinds of things that happen. There's a lot, for instance, we see, well, you know, with marketing changing because of what's happening with Facebook and because of many other issues and what's going on. And what I want to do is have you give us some ideas on what's happening with that, how it's working, and what's going on in marketing, what's working for dentisting humans today, in your point of view.
Sure. Yeah, well, I think maybe this will just be an interesting way to kick us off. There's a lot of changes on the ground in every platform and every technology, but I think what I'm seeing across the board at a 30,000 foot level is a big architectonic shift in consumer behavior that makes one major trend, I suppose, is the loss of effectiveness of every kind of mass marketing.
Ooh, that's profound.
So something like, you see trends like this in other products. So, you know, the rise of craft beer, of small batch whiskey, of farm to table food delivery, these trends of having smaller niche audience based products, things that are particularly for one person, not so much for everybody. And that is kind of making its presence felt in consumer behavior across all products, all services, everything that you can imagine, which is making the things that worked, you know, even just a few years ago for service providers, for dentists, for landscapers, for anybody who is providing a service that is associated with a particular way of delivering it, mass marketing is just becoming ineffective. So you'll see that, for example, in things like email open rates that are going down. It'll be more effective nowadays to send an email that looks like it was written in plain text on your phone than an email that's decorated and has magazine quality photos in it. That's a big shift that's happening, and I think a lot of people are still catching up to it.
Yeah, it would seem like there's so many changes that we can't live in the world of, well, the way we did it before, or back in the good old days, whatever we envision that might be, that doesn't count anymore. Now it's different and we've got to look at it. But I think it also gives us some advantages, because if now I can compete more effectively with just clear text, clearly enunciated with a good value statement packed into it, that beats the socks off somebody with a bigger budget with the fancy schmancy graphics and videos and all those other things, right?
And this is a very neat thing that's happening. You see major breweries, Anheuser-Busch, Coors, people who've been here for 30 years and have distributed products all over the world are having their market share upended by mom and pop microbreweries in mid-sized towns. That's the kind of idea I'm talking about here. It does give opportunity to people who are upstart, provided that they're able to build strong connections between themselves and an ideal customer.
See, and I think you hit the nail on the head there. That's the ideal. You want to build those strong connections. I've talked for years about building relationships. I say it's not about the e-commerce, all the electronics. It's about the R-commerce, relationships. And dentists are in a unique position to be really intimately involved with those people they call patients. And now they can do it. So what are some opportunities that you see that might be emerging for those who are smart enough to take advantage of that?
Yeah, well, let's talk first about some of the challenges, because I think the opportunities are on the backside of these challenges.
Yeah, makes sense.
One of the things that's happening to so-called mass marketing is that technological platforms and products are becoming increasingly stingy from the marketer's side, or from the customer's side, increasingly protective of customers' privacy and data. So a massive change that's happened just in the last few weeks is that Apple's iOS rolled out an update.
Yep.
And that update invites users to opt in to particular methods of information sharing. But if they don't opt in, things that were available to advertisers and to marketers for all this time, a lot of the information that advertisers and marketers relied upon is just not going to be available to them in the same way. And I don't want to bore your viewers with details on that, but essentially, it will never have been more important before now that marketers own the relationship with their prospects.
I think that's tweetable right there. Marketers own the relationships with their prospects, with their customers, and we can't just assume that what worked before is working now.
Right, and mass marketing through Facebook advertising, historically, through other sort of data-driven mass marketing approaches, those have been primarily an interchange where you rent the relationship. So you don't have a relationship with a particular person. Facebook does, or Google does, or Twitter does, or Snapchat did, and then you rent that relationship in the hopes of starting your own relationship. And in the future, it's going to be increasingly important that marketers and that business providers, dentists, for example, anybody who's appealing to a marketplace finds ways to own the relationship.
Yeah, I think you're so true. We've got to make sure that we're doing that. Well, then let's get this down into some nitty-gritty platforms specifically, because we know it's Facebook, and of course that affects WhatsApp, Instagram, et cetera, but all that. Give us some specifics on how that's going to affect, particularly in the dental community, and what we should be aware of and what you have seen would be good steps to take.
Let's talk about that. So in the past, and I'm talking about maybe 10 years ago,
long ago in computer history.
Yeah, ancient times. The era of the wheel. Dentists might have started a business Facebook and put pictures on that, and they had a reasonable hope that those pictures were going to reach the people who followed their page. Now, about 8 years ago, that reach started to die, and in the last 8 years, it's basically been the case that you pay to play. If you wanted to reach people, you had to advertise. Now, advertising is still going to work. It's just going to be what you do with your advertising that's going to make the difference for long term, whether you're able to hold the relationships that you used to be able to trust Facebook to hold for you. So
what does that mean?
Yeah, so the main place you're going to feel this is in the targeting and in retargeting.
Yes.
Retargeting especially is going to be very, very difficult when the data that used to tell the Facebook ad engine this customer has recently viewed this or has done this or whatever. When that information is not available, you're not going to be able to use it to advertise against it anymore.
And to back
So-
up what you said before, they would not be able to use it because the customer did not opt in to saying, yes, I
Exactly.
want you to retarget me, in essence.
Exactly, and customers, are becoming more data conscious as data gets breached, as things like that happen. They're becoming more conscious about their privacy and security, and so they're not going to be as eager to share what they've shared in the past.
Absolutely. Just yesterday, I was reading on an online subscription. They get only 4% so far of those who are working with iOS have said, yes, I'm going to opt in. That means 96% are going, I don't want that. So the game has changed dramatically, even in the last few days.
And when you consider the size of Apple's market share and how many people that dentists want to reach are doing the work to find that dentist on a phone, there's just no way practically to kind of like, it'll be a while before we can actually estimate really the effect of it. What that means, I think, is that it's not all bad news. It just means that, for people who are advertising on Facebook, that first round of advertising is going to cost a little more than it used to cost. But the smart people are going to figure out how to get that relationship off of Facebook as soon as they possibly can into things that the dentist and the patient own together.
Yep, exactly. And I think actually it gives dentists a very big advantage, because how many producers, marketers, a grocery store, or even say Amazon, really literally have physical contact with you that close with a dentist. I know, for instance, with my dentist in Orlando, I love my dentist. She's great, and the hygienist I'm working with, she's fabulous. I've been working with them for years. Price is really not a big issue because, hey, I know them, I love what they do, and every time they said, Terry, you got to go to another dentist. Wait a minute, I'm sure there's other really good dentists there in Orlando, but it's just like, wait a minute, I want this one. And that's a special relationship that I think already exists. What do you think?
Of course I agree. I think that once you let somebody put their hands in your mouth, if that experience goes well, you tend to stay put.
That's right.
This is a very scary thing, letting somebody get you that way. So if somebody treats you well, you're going to want to hang on.
Yeah, they're putting sharp metal objects into my mouth and making it a nasty noise. And sometimes there is a little bit of pain. Oh, I don't like that. But nevertheless, that's a special relationship, I think, that's there.
And of course, I know that there are other pressures on this industry that don't have anything to do with marketing and customer information. Insurance is making it harder for dentists to get paid fairly for their work. And there are also non-dental pseudo competitors that are doing, storefront ortho in malls. So all of these pressures I know are affecting dentistry in a profound way, and it makes it so crucial that dentists own the relationship with their marketplace.
Absolutely.
So I think another big trend that's kind of on the backside of this is that the next 5 years are going to be incredibly good to dentists who learn how to build their own brand. Now, what does this mean? It means that instead of the random encounter with you that I have in the street of Facebook, or the city plus dentist search in my Google search bar, increasingly, technologies are making it easier for customers to get the information that they specifically want. So things like voice search are changing the way that users interact with their marketplace. When I go to Amazon and say, hey, Alexa, give me something, I typically know what I want. And part of how I know what I want is somebody has done a good job of getting in front of me and making me remember their name.
Yes.
So with voice search, I did some research recently and found out that in 2018, so this is pre-COVID, this is, the world has changed dramatically even since then, accelerating all these trends. But in 2018, it was the case that half of users of the internet searched for a local business on a voice search platform.
Wow, one half, and that was back in 2018. So 300 years ago.
Yes. And of those 50% who did that, 74% of them did it weekly, 50% do it daily. And what that means is, so 25% of the people in the marketplace are not going to be looking anymore at a screen with multiple options. They're not going to be looking at a Google search page that shows you 15, your top 15 results. They're going to say, Google, find me a dentist, or they're going to say, Google, find me this dentist.
Yes.
And finding me this dentist is going to be dependent on me having heard their name and remembered it. Now, advertising is going to shift in response to this trend. It already has. It's the stuff I see on Facebook where dentists kind of put their information out there with, like some sort of lead generation form, some kind of dirt cheap offer that they offer you in order to get you to click through a Facebook ad to a website, sign up for an email list, and then they blast you with emails that they send to everybody. Mm-hmm. That technique is going to decrease in effectiveness in a world where I have to remember your name in order to do the thing that you want me to do.
Sounds like that old way of doing things is about as relevant as yellow page advertising.
Well, I don't want to overestimate it. I mean, there's still tons of people making a pretty good living that way. But I think the people who know how to take that old way and inject in it the uniqueness that makes your name something I remember are going to be able to ride this trend. So people that I know that are doing this exceptionally well, one of them is a member of this Facebook, the Dental Nachos Facebook group, is Elijah Desmond. His company,
yes.
Driven Dental Marketing.
Wonderful guy.
What do they do? So they do this generic lead gen. I don't say generic. I mean, it's unique, but they do this lead type thing as a front end, though, to an incredibly unique consumer experience that makes his clients able to deliver something to their customer that nobody else in their marketplace is delivering. So then the person, as most people do, if they click on the ad and they follow through, but then they just get busy or forget, they don't respond for the majority of the marketplace that doesn't do what Driven Dental Marketing wants them to do right away, they've had an experience that makes it so that when they go searching for something, that branded search either on Google or through voice search, it's going to be a search for a name they remember. So I think Elijah's doing a great job doing kind of half and half, mixing these two trends together and being very wise about what's coming. But
the
I think
magic is in the mix. We often say
right,
that.
Yeah,
it is.
But I will say that for every Elijah Desmond, there are 50 Facebook advertising agencies out there that are all running the same playbook because they learned it from the same set of YouTube videos or whatever. And they are delivering to your prospective patients an experience that is completely generic, completely ununique. And you're going to get just washed away all the people whose names I can't remember as a patient. So I think getting sophisticated about brand and realizing that that is the shortest way to own the relationship. If somebody remembers your name, you own the relationship.
That's important. Dentist, you're watching this. Think about that and write that down. They want to get to know your name. This is for those little prospects that are just hearing about you, and you want to make sure that it stands out in a profoundly favorable way. What else, William?
So I think that then there's a kind of a similar effect happening in search marketing. So the two main ways, now there's lots of ways, there's still every door direct mail. Everything works if you work it well. But in the two sort of primarily technologically driven marketing approaches, it's social media advertising and it's search. So we've talked a bit about social media advertising here. Search algorithms are changing to privilege people with an identifiable and popular brand. So in the past, you could set up a website page as a dentist and say, for example, Chattanooga Dentist. You might have a URL for your website that's like chattanoogadentist.com, right? and then you would stuff your page with keywords or using H1s and meta tags and things like that to make sure that if somebody typed in Chattanooga dentist, that they found you. In the coming era, which is, we're kind of, I would say we're on the front side of this wave, it's going to matter precisely that you don't do that. It's going to matter precisely that you have an identifiable brand, and the way people, the frequency with which people search for your brand is going to be part of the algorithmic calculation that tells the person searching generically how likely they are to find what they want if they find you.
Okay, that sounds brilliant. Let me have you go a little bit more in depth on that in English. What do you mean by that? Because it's brilliant what you just said.
So if I go to the internet today and I search for Chattanooga dentist, the way Google is deciding what's relevant and what to put in front of me, because remember, each of these platforms, their goal is to provide me an experience that makes me come back for them the next time I need something. Google doesn't give I was going to say a Gary Vaynerchuk word. Google doesn't care which dentist I find. They only care that when I want my next pair of shoes, or that when I want to find a grocery store, when I want to find a landscape artist, that I remember that Google is where you get that answer satisfyingly done.
That's key.
So when I go look for Chattanooga dentist, what Google is going to be relying upon is how many people have had a successful search experience with a particular dentist.
Important.
So if you're strongly branded, so if instead of Chattanooga dentist, you are Bright Smiles Dental or something like that, and half the people who are looking for dentists are looking for you by name, that's going to matter more than like my clever URL that's designed to trick the search engine into showing my practice to people who search for Chattanooga dentist.
I love it. Ray, let me ask you this, going in more depth, so that our hypothetical dentist there in Chattanooga, who has Bright Smiles Dentist, might need to do some marketing advertising to say, I'm the Bright Smiles Dentist here in Chattanooga. When you want Bright Smiles, you search for the Bright Smiles Dentist, that's us, rather than saying Dr. Terry Brock. I'm not a doctor, but, but Dr. Terry Brock, that kind of thing. Are we on the right track there?
Well, I would say that's close. Dr. Terry Brock would do fine if Dr. Terry Brock was a known brand. It's precisely the generic version of that that's not going to be as effective. The other thing I would say is consumers are doing their self-education on multiple channels. So it's so crucial in a way that it wasn't even 18 months ago, before COVID, that the consumer can connect the dots. So you spend, let's say you're spending $5,000 a month on a search engine company so that they can rank you for Chattanooga dentist. Again, I'm not saying that's a bad idea all by itself. It's what you do with the experience that the customer has once they have discovered you, whatever way they discover you. But if they discover you and they remember your name, that's going to be pretty crucial when they hop off Google and go investigate your Instagram, or they go investigate your Facebook page, or they go investigate you on some other channel like a local directory or whatever else, or when they ask their friends. These sorts of things matter. It's in the early days of internet marketing, you could do without a brand. That is no longer true. And my guess is that the people who are watching this, if they audit their last 18 months carefully, they're going to find out that the generic has worked less well and the specific has worked better.
Very good. And also, I kind of hear an echo in the background there. Correct me if this is right or wrong. I hear that word consistency throughout the different platforms. You don't want to be one way here and a completely different logo and completely different over here. Is that right?
Right. At the end of the day, as a consumer, I need to be able to recognize you wherever I see you, and then I need to see you everywhere.
Okay, well now you mentioned some specific platforms. You mentioned working with them. Let me get real nitty gritty here. We've talked about Facebook, of course. Give me
Yeah.
your reaction, pro and con, and why. LinkedIn.
I think that LinkedIn is an amazing channel for service providers. I mean, this is sort of counterintuitive, but I would say two things. One, there's still lift on LinkedIn, and what that means is there are still fewer people producing content than there are eyeballs in front of it. And what that means is that for some amount of time that nobody can really predict, when you put content on there, you're going to be seen by more people than you would be seen by on some other platform.
That's golden. Those of you who are listening to
Yeah.
this and watching it, listen to what he just said. If you have to stop and rewind just a little bit here, listen to that, because you want to produce that content. You don't want to be there where there's 50 bazillion others all saying, hi, I'm wonderful, hire me. You want to be in that one place where you're one of the only few that are standing out. William, that's golden.
And the other thing I would say that's just as important to this point is that service providers primarily don't jump on LinkedIn, especially local service providers like dentists. They don't get on LinkedIn. They don't spend time there. So it's a good way to be in a blue ocean instead of a red ocean right away. A blue ocean meaning that there's no fish and lots of water. Red ocean being that there's blood and chum everywhere and you're harder to see. So you can get into a place where there's not a lot of other people competing for your space. And secondly, dentists complain with reason. They complain to every marketing company that exists about lead quality. Well, LinkedIn is a place where all the people that you secretly wish were your patients are there. So it's, you're not marketing to literally everyone who has a smartphone. You're marketing to people who are professionals, who are growing their own careers. And if you can find a way to be valuable to the people in your town who are professionals, who are who trend like middle class and up, that kind of thing, there's a whole place full of people who can afford you and do need you, and no one else is there.
Okay, we've covered
I
Facebook,
don't
we've covered
understand why dentists aren't
LinkedIn.
on LinkedIn.
Yep, I hear you. Okay, now another one. Here's a biggie, and this is real big for dentists and potential. I'm really interested in your comments. Instagram.
I think that Instagram is past its sell-by date. Now, let me be careful what I mean here. I think that as a place where somebody who has already heard your name wants to find out more about you, Instagram is incredibly helpful. As an advertising platform, Instagram is still fairly helpful. But the days in which you can post photos on Instagram and just expect them to be seen by people who are going to be interested in what you do, that we're past the sell-by date on that. Instagram is an utterly saturated marketplace because on Instagram, as a dentist, you're not just competing with other dentists, you're competing with the Kardashians. There's only so many posts that Instagram can show its users, and you're competing with everybody. You're competing with John Mayer, and the Seattle
And a place like you
Seahawks.
and me are not going to be able to compete with the Kardashians really well in certain areas.
And I think, I can already hear that somebody's watching this and they're thinking of like these 3 or 4 dentists that they know who have sizable platforms. I just want to remind you, they started before the wave hit. I don't think it's nothing. I think the best thing that you can do on Instagram is to show people your patient happy, to tell your patient's stories to the extent that they'll let you. And I understand there are laws around this and stuff like that, but to the extent that you can show happy patients on Instagram, or your team happy on Instagram, or giving me a feel for what it's like to be in your office, that's great. Not because you're going to get 40,000 followers and then they're all going to come to you, but because it's a great secondary research platform.
I like that. Great secondary research platform. Okay, we've covered some of those. Here's another one, very important because it's visual. We're talking dentists, and of course we're talking about YouTube.
Yes. I think um, I have seen YouTube used really, really badly by dentists. I think that to the extent that you can make what you do entertaining and provide something, so not just the equivalent of a video ad, but to the extent that you can really tell a story on YouTube, I think there's really something special. So let me just kind of give you a for instance here.
Please.
One of the members of this Facebook group, who's also a good friend of mine, is a guy named Todd Fleischman. Todd Fleischman routinely will find people and do smile makeovers that he does at his own expense, often just because he's a great guy and he likes to change people's lives.
Nice.
So telling that story on YouTube has real potential because YouTube is a long form video platform. It's not a great place to film a 30-second ad and post it there and hope that something is going to happen. But if you can tell a good story, if you can, as a dentist, partner with your local business community to do something that other dentists aren't doing. One of my friends who's a chiropractor here in Chattanooga, he partners up with other local businesses to go to coffee shops and other places, and he'll open up a tab and just leave it there for anybody who comes. When he puts that stuff on YouTube, he and the business partner that opened up the tab will share it, and then other people share it just because they want you to know, hey, this really great new restaurant that opened up, or this really great new coffee shop that's in town, or this really great new brew pub has a $100 tab open for anybody who wants to go get it. People share that kind of stuff. And that's how you can build an audience on YouTube as a local service provider.
William, to cycle back to what you were talking about before, it sounds like that dentist there in Chattanooga that's doing that is really building relationships. And that's
yes, I would
really
say he's a chiropractor, just to be clear.
Or
but
chiropractor,
yes, that's exactly right. And more importantly, he is making it easy to remember his name.
Yep. Easy to remember name, building those relationships, those important. Because you're so good on this, you see so many different things. I'm going to hit you with a wild one right now.
Sure.
Get ready. I'm going to here's a curveball coming at you. TikTok.
So I'm losing on TikTok right now. I'm older than the sort of TikTok generation. That said, everybody who has teeth needs a dentist. So there are people who are way better qualified to give advice about the best way to use TikTok. But here's what I will say. What works on TikTok, and by what works, I mean when I get on TikTok the 1 or 2 times a week that I get on it, what consistently shows up in my Discover feed are the people who are making something fun. So if I owned a dental practice right now, I think what I would do is find the employees or the staff who themselves are TikTokers, and we would do one of the dance challenges in my office, right there in the operatory when there's no patient there. Just a thing that makes it fun.
Great idea.
A thing that makes you human, and a thing that makes a patient say, it would be fun to be in that place.
Elijah Desmond is the kind of guy that would do something like that. Just a wonderful guy,
Absolutely.
Crazy, wonderful, wild guy. We love him.
Yeah, and I'll say like I say, there are people better than me to talk to about TikTok. My specialties tend to be in search and voice and things like that. But I will say, just as an intelligent watcher of TikTok, if you do it well, you not only get eyeballs in a place where there's still lift. Again, TikTok, like LinkedIn, is a place where there's still more content than there are eyeballs. And so if you produce content, you get lift, you get organic reach to it that you don't get on the legacy platforms. If you get on TikTok, you'll get that lift. And then if you do something that makes it fun, you're overcoming for me as a potential patient my biggest fear. I don't like going to the dentist. It's painful, it's expensive, it takes a long time. And none of those things are things that you can help as a dentist. You're doing skilled work. It has to cost money. You're dealing with health stuff. It has to be potentially painful. It has to be difficult for the patient. You know, nobody has figured out yet how to solve that problem entirely. So
We're working on it. Our best people are working
on it. Yes, absolutely. But if you can make it so that I know that at least I will have the best time possible,
yeah,
you're going to make it easier for me to say yes. And so TikTok is a place where you can not only still get a lift, you can do away with my biggest fear as a consumer about going to the dentist by telling me, look, you're going to have a good time here. There's necessary evils to this whole thing, but you're going to have a good time.
I love it. That sounds great. William Glass, you are just a jewel and a wealth of information that we can really use. We're not going to let you get away from here without letting us know how somebody can get in touch with you through email or some way, just in case they say, we want to get in touch with that young man, find out a little bit more about him. What's the best way for them to reach you?
Yes, well, I'll be glad to talk to anybody who reaches out to me. I have just started my own search agency that's primarily focused on helping people navigate the shift from kind of like the standard Google search results page to the to Amazon and Google Voice and preparing for some stuff that's coming in search. And so that's where I really specialize, though I think of myself as a sort of relatively intelligent sounding board for lots of different marketing platforms. There's specialists all over this group that'll give you better things here and there, but I think I'm a good generalist, and I've got some knowledge that I think that I can give better than anybody else, especially with regards to like developing trends in search. If you're worried about that, if you're worried about losing your Google traffic, losing Bing traffic, I'm a guy to talk to, and you can reach me at William@gettelescope.com. There won't be a website yet if you look at that URL, because Telescope is a brand new agency that I've just founded in the last month. But you can reach me there, at least by the email, at William@gettelescope.com.
And for those that might be listening to this on audio and might not have English as their first language, please spell that out real carefully.
Sure. William, so that's WILLIAM, at get, G-E-T, telescope, TELESCOPE.com.
All right. Well, William Glass, you are a wealth of information. You're not only way up there you're the kind of kids that ruined the curve for the rest of us in school. You're brilliant in that, but useful information that we can use. Oh, and by the way, you didn't mention here, but I'm going to share with everyone else, you just successfully defended your PhD with the oral exam, your dissertation that's there, and soon to be, at what time will we be able to officially call you doctor when you have earned your PhD?
You could call me that now, though it would embarrass me. So
that's right. I don't know if it'll ever embarrass you, but we just appreciate what you've done. And congratulations on that. And thank you so much for joining us today. And for those of you that are watching this, be sure and get in touch with this guy. William, go ahead.
Just gonna say, glad to be of help. Feel free to reach out. I know that this will be in the group, so I'm looking forward to engaging in the comments. Ask specific questions to me. Tell me what you're planning. Look. Most of you guys, we're not going to be a good business fit. Some of you we will. So you can trust me to give you advice that's not going to be angling to some business outcome I have. I'm here to help. And also, I know the other great marketers in this group. So if I see a question that I think is a good fit for somebody else, I will happily tag them in to do better than I can do. So best of luck to all of you, and let's keep going.
Sounds good. I like the idea we keep going because it's a changing market, and so that's what we at Dental Nachos do. Dr. Paul Goodman, affectionately known as Dr. Nachos himself, encourages us to keep going, keep learning, always be learning. I love he has many different phrases. Don't guess, test. And I like the way he says that. And that's really what you're saying. In a new market, we're going to learn. And what worked before, well, that's nice. That was good then, but we're not using black phones with rotary dials anymore. We don't use yellow pages very much at all, if any. there's a lot of things. They were good at a time. We move on. And so we've got to be there to see what's happening to us. And William, you've given us some good ideas for that. Thank you. And maybe we'll get a chance to see you sometime again later on down the road.
It was a pleasure to be with you. Thanks for having me.
Wishing you lots of success. And for those of you that are joining us on this, think about what's happened. This is one of those things that you want to go back and listen to. We often say that when you're exposed to new material, one exposure seldom helps you to really remember it. I'd encourage you to go back and look over this one again. Listen to it again. Take some notes where you can stop it, write it down, and go from there. So lots of good on that, and we will look forward to seeing you. I'm Terry Brock, and on behalf of all the dental nachos out there and Dr. Paul Goodman, we'll see you again later on down the road. Thanks for